Morning, Adam. How are you?
Hey Rob, I'm well. And yourself?
Good. Is General Marshall the most famous graduate of VMI?
He is a famous guy from VMI, but I think very few people realize that also Chesty Polar went to VMI. He just didn't graduate from it.
And I let me know if I understand this correctly. Not super familiar with VMI, but it's a military school and it's a state school, right?
That's right. Yep. So it's a state school, like the Citadel is, for example, and it's not federal.
Right. But the military program is ROTC program, correct?
Yep. So you don't have to commission out of VMI anymore. You used to, I think, in the 80s. But if you go there, you do have to choose a branch of ROTC to be in through your whole time there, but you don't have to commission in it. So it's just part of their Cincinnatus, their leadership philosophy there.
How big is the school? How many total kids in it?
I don't know what it is now. I think when I went through, it was less than 1,500 people. I graduated, I think, with about 250 guys in my class.
Yeah, it's about I think my class the academy is around 260. I went to Coast Guard Academy. So do you have to declare your branch like day one?
Yep.
So
Yep.
you went Marine Corps right away then.
I did. Yep. And you can change in the middle of it if you're not contracted. You can change, and if you are contracted and you want to change, that's a whole other hill to get over as well.
So I saw you were a dummy like me with a major in history. That was political science.
Yeah.
How many other majors did you start in history or did you default to history?
Nope. I started in international studies, and so high school was easy for me academically, and when I hit college, it got hard. And I'm not sure if it was a combination of going to VMI and having a lot of your time pre-prescribed and only having a little bit of time to study, but I'm a knuckle dragger too, and so that didn't help. But I started off at international studies, and then my sophomore year, I think my third class year, I injured my right knee. My patella medial retinaculum snapped, and my kneecap came out of place while I was doing pugil sticks with ROTC, and that got me down in the dumps a good bit. I struggled academically, and then I switched to history. Because it had the least amount of math requirements. But I focused on I minored in military history, and then like I minored in international studies and politics.
Now does VMI have one of those cool, like black and white checkerboard quads like Citadel does? Or is that the VMI, not Citadel?
So Citadel has the checkered. I got a really good friend that went there. I looked at going there too for track, and I spent the night there. Charleston's a beautiful area. Growing up in Harrisonburg, VMI was just an hour down the road, and I had just started dating my wife, my high school in high school. So she was a junior and I was a senior, and I just started dating her. So I got bit by the love bug a little bit, and it was only an hour down the road. I chose to stay closer to home instead of going down south. But we have bricks. So inside all the courtyards are legitimate like bricks on the ground there. So we call them the bricks.
Like cobblestones or smooth or
So,
what?
so like yeah, so out front there's legit bricks, like cobblestone bricks all around, and then on the inside of the barracks there's some like 10 by 10 stones on the ground there.
Is like VMI a product of the Confederacy, and is it that old or
Yep.
yeah?
So it still has it's got cannonballs in it from the Union Army still. Lexington started as a Confederate armory post. I'm sure that there might be some guys that might hear this and correct me if I'm missing something, but it started as a Confederate post, and the guys there were just raising Cain out in town. And they're like, hey, we need to get these guys, these yahoos under control. And so they turned it into an academic station as well. And that's how it kind of.
Uh, Family history in the military, or were you outcast and
My
good?
my mom's dad was a machine gunner in Korea with the third ID. My dad's dad was in the army. My first cousin is in the army as well, with intel, and my dad's uncle, my great uncle, is in the army during World War II.
But your dad wasn't in the military then.
Nope, nope. So
Were your parents surprised you wanted to go to VMI, or something you always wanted to do?
I knew. I think about my freshman year of high school. I knew I wanted to be in the military. I vividly remember when I lived in Peachtree City, Georgia, I was a young kid. I remember watching a Ranger commercial on TV, and I don't know what it was. It was in the '90s, and just saw him roping down, hitting an objective and getting it. And I'm like, I want to do that. But in high school, you're trying to figure out what you want to do because you're looking at college. And I gotta just say, God just put it on my heart. Like I knew I was going to go in the military. And so my junior and senior year, or my junior year, I went into JROTC there at the high school, had fun with that. And then my senior year, I started reaching out to the recruiters because I was going to enlist. I wanted to enlist, right? Grew up in the war, with the war going on. And I was like, I want to enlist. So I reached out to the Army recruiter, saw him, did some stuff for the Ranger introductory program, whatever that was. And then I met with the Marine Corps recruiter and saw the light. And I was like, I'm joining the Marines. Just for all the stubborn things, right? Everything that the Marine Corps is known for, being the hardest, the toughest, all those things. And when I told my parents, I have a great relationship with my parents. I'm very thankful for that. My dad's my best friend. He's my hunting buddy, and we do everything together. But I told my parents, hey, I'm going to enlist. And my dad told me if I enlisted without his permission, it'd be one of the most disappointing days of his life if I didn't try college first. And I couldn't get over that disappointing.
Did your dad go to college or?
Yep. My dad went to Miami of Ohio, and my mom went to Bowling Green State University of Ohio.
What did your dad do for work? What did your parents work?
My dad was a general manager of Packaging Corporation of America, a corrugated box and display company. So he got recruited straight out of college, and he retired, I think, about 5 years ago after about 41 years of work there.
Wow. Company man.
Yep, company man. Very rare today, but I worked in that factory high school through college as well, which was very eye-opening for me, seeing the working class of America. Yeah, I worked in restaurants and stuff before during the summer, and some landscaping here and there for a local business. But I definitely, that was definitely another thing that solidified my desire to go in the Marine Corps, because I knew I did not want to do that for a living or for any extended period of time. It just wasn't made for that. And I'm not bashing anybody that does do that or whose parents do that, but punching the card and pushing the button and doing the same thing, shift work, 7 to 3, 3 to 11. I couldn't do it.
It's so interesting. I saw recently the Army recruitment numbers are up, and I saw a new Army recruitment video, which is all guys hitting each other and crawling through mud and jumping out of helicopters. It was part of the defense nomination here, DOD, Department of Defense guy. We actually did some work on a study. We've done some interesting work on this just a couple years ago in terms of the problems with recruitment. And we identified, and you can take a look at the recruitment numbers over the past few years, and as a percentage of, I guess, just getting down to it, the decline in military recruitment, especially the Army, was you could pretty much directly tie that to white men. It's not like the numbers of minority men went up, but as a percentage of the recruits, they went up just because there were fewer white men. And I spent a semester at West Point. I didn't notice it so much at Coast Guard Academy, but at West Point, there were a lot of Southern, men at West Point. I think and I've heard this since, just some research that how much of our military is staffed by people like yourself, and honestly, white men from the South. Just the tradition and the legacy going in there. So I thought that was really interesting. I imagine that most of the people at VMI were from Virginia or the South or close.
Yeah, there's a lot of heritage there, a lot of families. Multiple generations that have gone there too, right? So, the Citadel is the military college of the South, VMI is the military institute of the South. And I do think there's a lot of heritage there, a lot of lineage. And I think the ideals are pretty attractive too, right? So if you have a young man or woman who wants to do something that's bigger than themselves, right? Like I absolutely did not want any part of my 13th grade. I didn't want any part to be with my high school class. I didn't want to be with them. I wanted to do something stubborn and hard and different. And that was VMI. It was VMI for me, right? Didn't really know exactly why outside of that. Didn't really even know what I was getting myself into. I spent a night there, just like I did spend a night at the Citadel, but that's only the tip of the iceberg, right? You really have no idea. But I'm happy I went there.
I know. The only we used to compete against Norwich Academy, which was in Vermont, which is a
Mm-hmm.
military academy and small
Yep.
one
Yep.
in Vermont. And I don't know if there's another one. That's the only one I'm aware of in the north side. And then you have, I know the Corps Cadets at Texas A&M. I'm not too sure what that's all about, but I know those guys are
Yeah.
committed, and I know
Virginia Tech.
I've spoken.
Virginia
Oh,
Tech
Virginia
has a big
Tech has a
core.
strong,
Yep.
really. I
Yep.
mean, are there? Can you think of any other big core, in the west or north? I think it's all in the south, right? Except for Norwich.
Yeah, and it might be my ignorance too, right? I mean, obviously, bigger colleges have bigger ROTC programs, but as far as the core of cadets go, the big ones
Yeah.
are what you said: Texas A&M, Virginia Tech, and Norwich.
Wow, interesting. Went right from, I guess, your direct commission, right?
Yep.
Coming out of school.
Well, yep. So I mean, I still had to go to officer candidate school,
Oh,
and
you still
then
have to go to OCS, really?
yep. So for the Marine ROTC, there's a few ways to commission. I'm a bit fuzzy on some of them, but you can do like PLC, which is two 6 week summers. You can do one 10-week summer, or if you're already contracted through ROTC, you do one 6-week summer as well. And that's what I did. So if you're in ROTC and you have a good ROTC program, then the staff NCOIC of that Marine ROTC program will put you through what's called Bulldog program, which is just year round preparing for OCS, from drilling to arduous PT sessions to all, ROTC classes, and it's all after class. So you're going to commission. Your time after school is taken up by Bulldog program. So yeah, so I did 6 weeks and then commissioned.
Did you have a high attrition at your class? Do you remember at VMI?
Yes, I believe I started off somewhere close to 500 kids.
And you can graduate VMI and not go in the military, right?
That's right.
Okay. I know someone I worked with before did that. What you went through, IBOLC and no, not IBOLC. What is in the officers? Remind me again. I've written the training plans for them, but the infantry side for officers in Marine Corps, the two schools you have to go through.
If so, you go to after you graduate OCS, you go to the basic school at Camp Barrett,
Right, basic school.
Yep, and that's 6 months. And so, the term every Marine or rifleman, well, every Marine officer,
Go
platoon
through basic.
commander. So at TBS, you learn everything, the basis of how to lead a platoon, but you get exposed to every MOS. I mean, not flying, but you get exposed to every MOS. But the premise is, how can you lead a platoon? So every officer should be able to lead some platoon in some shape or form to an extent. And so you get exposed to patrolling, to urban, to defense and offense and all that. And it's 6 months long. And that's where you get your MOS. And then after that, you go to your MOS school. If you get infantry, like I did, I went across the street to the Church of Violence, Mitchell Hall, infantry officers course. And
right.
when I was in IOC prep, I was Delta class of TBS. And so we were waiting on Echo class from TBS to join us. So we had quite many months before we picked up IOC, which our screener was on the morning of January 1st at like 3 a.m. And so I first ran into MTI's programming during IOC prep, where we did the pre-Afghan deployment workup, which was horrible, but great. I was like, holy cow, what are we doing here? But that was the first time I was introduced to MTIs, and I still have my sea bag full of mulch or peat gravel, whatever it is. I still work out with it.
Yeah, thousands of guys use that before deployment.
Yep.
That's how come I kind of started in the military for sure. What was the Balkans like? I mean, where were you in the Balkans? What specific country?
So it was the Balkans. We were for that deployment, we were just around all of the former Soviet bloc Central Asian countries. So Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, Latvia, all those countries. We were rolling around there doing what's called theater security cooperation operations. And it's really just doing military exercises together while training our allies in our own infantry training and readiness standards to shape them up and prepare them for going to war as well. So we ran all over there
you had a platoon there, and then you went like
as an
XO to company.
Yeah.
And then you're ops guy there too. Were you ops guy there too, or
no? That was my second my second billet of responsibility was when I was the 3 Alpha over at now Expeditionary Operations Training Group, former Special Operations Training Group.
Why'd you get out? And were you a major when you get out, or are you a major now after some reserve time?
So I was medically retired, and per the MAR admin, if you are selected for your next grade and you are medically retired, you are to be promoted on your date of retirement. So I got pinned, to major on my retirement date, which was pretty nice. But getting out, so I have 3 girls, Olivia, Piper, and Ruby. They're about to be 8 and 5. And at the time, getting out, I had two. I had Olivia and Ruby, and I had always strived and placed my family first, even through the Marine Corps, right? My home life was very important to me. Even separating it was important to me, right? So I would go to work in civvies, change over my camis, right? And when I was leaving work, I'd change over to my civvies and come home in civvies most of the time, right? I needed the physical and mental separation because I wanted to preserve my family life, and I lived off base as well. But my girls changed my perspective in a way I never anticipated. And I had a good friend of mine. We basically did the whole Marine Corps together through TBS, IOC, 22, EOTG. He got out about a year before me. We're still very close friends today. He got out a little bit before me, and it kind of put a little bug in my ear because I was on my B billet over at EOTG, and I was at Ropes and Recovery Branch, which was a really good gig. I started thinking about it, thinking about it. And, I believe that God had placed that on my heart. And so I started praying about it, and I just couldn't shake it. I mean, this is years of thinking about it and trying to figure it out, because the Marine Corps or the military in general is a sure thing, right? You have your health care, you got a uniform, you know where to go and where to be and when to be there, right? It's a sure thing. But
Yeah, that's so interesting. Because I've had like academy grad junior officers who come to work for me and struggle because there's no manual. You know what I mean? There's nobody they can ask.
mhm.
Because no one's just coming out of that job. So yeah, and some of them really struggle. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. And so, I kind of equate it to Plato's allegory of the cave, right? You only know the shadows on the wall. And, all I knew was this Marine Corps world, and the cave opening was this whole other world out there. But my girls changed my perspective the way I never anticipated. So I gave it to God. I made my decision, took my step of faith, and I didn't know I could be this happy. And I didn't hate the Marine Corps. Still, I don't. I don't have a bad taste in my mouth. I love the Corps. But I just, my girls did it for me. And, now I get to see them every day and be there for them too. And so they're really the main reason I got out.
How come we also did this story a little bit ago. I mean, it's been a few years. I don't know what the rates are now, but the Marine Corps at the time had like the lowest reenlistment rate.
I know rates are a little low. I think we're pretty small right now. I think there's about
Like,
124,000 Marines in the
I
Corps
mean,
right
but
now.
of all the other branches, despite the hype and the commercials, and we did some investigation. But I had this one Green Beret, like a sergeant major. I forget how he described it about Marine Corps. He said, like, those guys just do stuff to make it stupid hard. There's no real reason to do it. They just do stupid hard just because it's stupid hard. Go ahead.
I can't argue that. But yeah, I think the sentiment goes in any branch, but I do think the Marine Corps might exemplify that a little bit more than the other branches.
I haven't done much tactical stuff. I did do a shooting course one time. Got invited to do the shooting course. I was like, all right. And it was me and a platoon, maybe a squad. I don't know. It was like an officer and a few rangers. They were just pre-deployment. They're on their pre-deployment leave, and they were so gung ho. They were doing this shooting course, all of them. And then we did it at Pendleton, and there was like another couple squads, like just regular Marines. And the gear differences were incredible, just in terms of the gear. But there was not that much of a difference in performance. I mean, those Marines are right there. I got lit up all the time. But yeah, those it was really interesting to see the investment in gear differences. But yeah, that's interesting. So did you have your job with Trijicon before you left? Did you have to get that after? Or how'd that work?
Man, so I was standing MEF CDO on Memorial Day weekend, and I made a list of all the companies I wanted to work for, all my dream jobs. Just me down in the vault with some corporal and a twin bed in the back with all the screens. And I think it was about 30 different companies. And At the time, I was a 3 alpha, so I was spending a lot of time on the computer, and I just shotgunned out my resumes unsolicited. I applied for VPs. I didn't care. I just wanted to get my name out there and get conversations going and just make my intent known, no matter if it fell on deaf ears or not.
Well, what companies were you looking at? Were they all defense industry companies?
They were, yep. So the defense industry was my dream job. I applied to NRA for something, not desperate, but like, okay, I was like, I can't put all my eggs in one basket, and didn't get a lot. And so I was actually in a covenant with another company that puts you in the account executive position for a high-tech sales company when I heard back from Trijicon. So it was months. And I'd already done some training with this company. And
So you already hired by this other company, and then you heard from Trijicon.
yep. So I was in this covenant, doing this like training pipeline for them to prep for, leaning into when you were getting out. And I heard back from Trijicon, and I called my handler, and I was like, hey, I got this job offer. It's my dream job, and I was like, I'm gonna take this interview. She's like, that's cool. You owe us a little bit of money for the training that you received. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so, one phone interview. I took leave to go on an in-person interview up from Lejeune to Fredericksburg, and by the grace of God, I got it. And
Take me to that interview.
yeah.
I mean, what were let's go the in-person interview. Who'd you meet with, and what did you wear? How many people were there? Take me there.
So my first in-person interview, I drove up in my Silverado on a snowy day.
Did you have your dorky ass jarhead haircut, or did you have like regular hair?
I had low reg. I had
What's
a
low reg mean?
just low fade haircut. I did not do the I
You
didn't do
didn't do
I
that.
no no no
Okay.
no no low fade. I wore a suit and tie. I walked in. I met with the vice president of business development, director business development, and my future boss, the manager of advanced technology programs, and some HR people were on the phone as well. And so they asked some standard questions, but they asked some specific ones as well. Hey, what are some capability gaps in the Marine Corps weapon systems that you see could use an optical solution, and so on and so forth. What are our competitors? I
Did
had
you prepare for the interview? Did you like bone yourself up on
oh yeah,
how'd you prepare for it?
well, I mean, shooting has been my lifestyle. I've had a BB gun in my hand since I was 3. I've been shooting my whole life and just loved optics, loved weapons, and was already aware of it. It was my lifestyle, right? I've been hunting since I was 8 or 10 with my dad. So I knew it. I knew the industry, and I prepared for it too through my other interviews as well, right? So the other company I was in a covenant with, we had to do all of these cognitive tests and sales tests and pre-recorded questions and things like that. So I was pretty used to it at that time.
So you kind of knew the corporate lingo or what to expect.
A little bit, but I came as myself. I was like, hey, they asked about some machine guns, and I was like, I haven't been in the fleet for almost 4 years, and I'd have to go back and do some research on that. So just being myself.
Hmm. Did you were there any did you get to ask them any questions?
I did ask some questions, but many people may not realize that Trijicon is a family-owned small business.
Right, it's still a family. It's not held by some private equity firm, right? It's
Nope,
still owned by the
nope,
family
yep.
guy.
So Glenn Benden founded Trijicon. If you've been in the military, you may have heard of the Benden aiming concept, which is shooting with both eyes open. That's Glenn Benden. And his son, Stephen Benden, runs the company now. And so when I asked some of the questions, because I consulted my dad, because he's a businessman of 4 decades, and he gave me some questions, and they're like, yeah, we can't answer that. We're a privately owned company. I was like, Roger that. Thank you. But it was nothing stressful other than making a mountain out of a molehill and psyching myself out for a job interview. That's about it.
Did you think you had the job when you left? Or did they offer it when you were there?
No, they wasn't offered it when I was there. Thank you. And I got walked through the office, given a little tour, and it was, hey, we'll reach out to you. So I didn't feel bad about it.
Right.
So
I mean, did the individuals you met with, did you come away going, holy fuck, I hope I get this job, or did they stand out to you somehow?
I wanted this job. This is my dream job, what I have now. So, that was for the when Trijicon called, when HR called me, hey, we would, we accept your resume and we'd like to interview you. I forgot what the whole title of the position was for. It'd been that long. So, this is for the assistant manager, advanced technology programs. And this, I was stoked. This is what I wanted. This was my dream job. So, now I'm the Marine Corps programs manager at Trijicon. So I still have yet to go to work. I thank God for it every day.
Well, let me go back to that title. You have a BA in history, and it sounds like it's a techie title.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
they ask you any technical stuff, and you're like, I don't know what electron is?
yeah. So it really was interfacing between the business development program managers of their services and the requirements from the branches or from law enforcement or federal, and taking those requirements, putting them on a paper and forming them into a product and a business case, and briefing it and getting the yay or nay, and then walking it hand in hand with the engineers into a product. And so, I wasn't there with a soldering iron, or anything, but I geeked out on it, and it was great, very educational. I had to learn a lot, about optics and the technical aspect of trade space and optic design and things like that. But I loved it. And so, when you do something you love, you pick up on it. It's not a chore by any means, but it wasn't easy either. There's a lot of technical information, and some of that, can only take. It just takes time. There's no other way to do it, right? So, I would make, flashcards. If I was in Deers waiting for my ID with the reserves or something like that, right? I'd have my flashcards out and I'd be studying. But just going up and interfacing with the engineers on a regular basis, anything in person helped out tremendously. But I loved that job.
So you use some technical terms. I need you to break this down. I'm a dumb strength coach.
Sure.
So the agency government, whether it's military or somebody else, says we need an optic that does this, and then you work with them and say you're the interface between them and the engineers at Trijicon. And then do you try to get, when you come back, do you try to find an existing optic that meets that stuff, or is it both that and having to design a new optic?
It's a little bit of everything, right? So like, oh, do we have something that's COTS or commercial off the shelf right now that meets this? Yes or no? Can we modify something that we currently have? It's hitting the easy buttons, kind of like, hey, what's the most simple approach to all this, right? And then it's like, okay, well, if we don't have any of that, what does it look like for us to make it? And that's any optics manufacturer's approach to that as well. That's not just something special.
So you tell me specifically about, what was that title of that first job again?
Assistant Manager of Advanced Technology Programs.
Did you work exclusively with the mostly with the Marine Corps there, or with all types of different agencies?
It was
services.
It was all the military, federal, and law enforcement, but it was mainly interfacing with our program managers for those branches and agencies.
And you had some peers or other guys just like you who are also assistants doing that, I assume.
So there's only 2 guys in advanced tech, but the peers were the other program managers.
Got it. Did they all have similar backgrounds to you?
Yep.
All ex-military? All officers or enlisted guys or retired?
No,
or go ahead.
No, it's a mix.
All over.
Our business development office they're all vets though. But, we're all prior service guys.
Got it. So you did that for a couple years, and then you got the promotion. And remind me your title now.
I'm the Marine Corps programs manager for Trijicon. So I'm in charge of everything from business development to managing the contracts for Trijicon, for the Marine Corps.
So, and I've never seen an ACOG on an Army rifle. I've never seen anything else but an ACOG on a Marine Corps rifle.
We're on more weapon systems in the DoD than any other optics company. We're in every branch of service on rifles, machine guns, pistols, so on and so forth. And so we're very proud of that. We, as in Trijicon, from myself to the people on the line, we don't take that lightly.
Is Marine Corps the biggest account?
It's our longest standing customer, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, because we did a shooting course, range fitness course with some MARSOC guys right outside. They actually had gone to still is bizarre to me how military guys can't shoot on military bases because they're range Nazis. And so they actually went and rented some land from a Native American tribe where they could set up their targets and just shoot.
Right on.
Went up there and spent a couple of days with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of ranges.
We did a range fitness course with them. Go ahead.
There's a lot of ranges you got to work around, on any military base, right? So doing something off base just gives you all the freedom.
I know it's crazy. The range Nazis are crazy, and those guys are like righteous. Anyway, just getting. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I only did it once, but I can't tell you how many hours I waited with some guy at 82nd Airborne on Bragg just to get promised ammo delivered to the range. It was crazy. But anyway, yeah, these guys were good shooters. There's one. They all had ACOGs on it. We did one of our range fitness drills, and I've only had a couple shooters ever get to the highest level of this drill the first time they've tried it. And there was a gunnery sergeant, master sergeant who did. I think he cheated because he had an ACOG. ACOG have a like 3x magnification, right?
So we make a ton, but on the military side, it's typically 4x or 3.5x.
Yeah, I don't know if that was cheating or not. The target was 100 meters away. But yeah, there were some good cheaters there for sure. So what is your day-to-day work like now? I mean, is there an office there close? You drive by, you work from home? How does it work?
Yep. So we have an office here in Fredericksburg for our military office. We got one here, and we have an at-home office as well. And so I go to the office every day. After I hit the gym, send my girls off to school, and I head to the office, and spend most of my basically the rest of the day there. And then I'll come home, plug in the computer, and run the girls around, do stuff with the family. I'll have my work phone on me, checking emails, answering calls, whatever it may be. But most of the time it's at the office for the vast majority of the day.
What's the most urgent call in your new job that you remember receiving about work? Something you got, it's like, oh shit, I got to fix this now. Can you talk about it?
I'm trying to think what that might have been. I think urgent calls are probably, hey, something broke, or it's like something's not working, or we don't understand this, and we need an answer now. We're on the range. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Not as exciting as you may have anticipated.
No. I'm just curious if you've heard from somebody downrange that, hey, I mean, because you noted, I just looking at your resume, you said you got a really good relationship with gunnery sergeants, right? At all different levels.
Gunners. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The gunner billet in the Marine Corps.
Okay, explain that to me. What's a gunner billet?
So the gunner billet is very unique. It's unique to the Marine Corps. There's no other billet like it in the DoD, right? And so it's a Chief Warrant Officer billet.
Okay.
And there's only about 100 or so of these at any given time in the Marine Corps. And these guys, there's one class that graduates a year, and it's anywhere from 6 to 18 guys, and that's it. And the gunners are the weapons employment experts in the Marine Corps. All right, so they know how to employ any and all weapons in the Marine Corps, the max effective range, all the things, and they are masters at it. It's their job. But one thing that's very unique to them is that they are tied in with providing some of the best input towards new stuff, new requirements, because they are the SMEs on that. And so it's a highly decorated group of guys too, right? Like I think you have to be an E7 or a gunny, gunnery sergeant, even to be eligible to apply. And then lots of the gunners, they apply multiple times. I don't know if there's a cap on it, but it's a small group of guys that do a lot in the Marine Corps, and it's a phenomenal billet that the Marine Corps has.
Do all these guys have your direct phone number? Can they call you direct?
A lot of them do, but I will say another really valuable aspect of the gunners at every. There is a gunner at every unit in the Marine Corps, and they have a phenomenal impact on platoon commanders, right? So my gunner, Mike Reiser at 2-2, 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines Warlords, was a phenomenal mentor to me as an infantry officer, as a platoon commander, and as a company executive officer too. They're just I can't speak highly enough about them, right? Those are the war fighters. Those are the guys that do things and have a lot of input in a lot of things as well.
How often do you get to shoot? Do you get to shoot at work? Do you have a range set up in the backyard of the office?
We do. Trijicon has a range here in Fredericksburg at a local training complex, and so we can use it for authorized professional development. And we host all of our ranges here too. It's the only range in the Nova area, in the DC, Northern Virginia area. So outside of shooting or being on ranges with the Marine Corps, right? So I do our own authorized professional development here as well. And then my dad's got about a 40-acre farm over in the Shenandoah Valley, and we got some steel set up there. We go out to about 600 there, and we shoot there occasionally too. But I do a lot of shooting here.
What specific optic from another company are you like, that's a goddamn good optic?
Yeah, it's you got to be. My opinion is you got to be brand agnostic in here, right? Like everyone does good at other things or better at other things than what you do as well. Well, let me rephrase that. The whole
I
optic
just
in
I want you to
yeah
answer the question.
yeah.
What's the
I'm
pretty
going
direct
to.
question?
I just wanted to kind of retract that. I wanted to retract that a little bit there, right? Everyone does something good, right? And so Trichicon's optics are extremely durable, right? We are known for combat optics, right? I'd say the new Leupold Mark 5 2 to 10 is a swell optic. The
What is
Venom.
that? Is that a AR optic or what is it?
Well, it's a 2 to 10 variable powered.
I'm not much of a gun nerd, so you're gonna have
Yeah,
to help me here a little bit.
it's just it's a good magnification range, and it's really small it's a small size. So it's just a nice
Good, yeah.
package. You know, we came out with our 1 to 10 Credo last year, which is a pretty swell optic too, man. For you want to hunt, you want to shoot, you want to compete with it. A lot of guys are competing with it. It's shorter than our 1 to 8 powered optic. A Night Force, the ATACR series is a good series as well.
Is Night Force another brand?
Yes, sorry about that.
Wow.
Yeah, Night
So
Force
I
is.
never are they old? It seems like I've never heard that one before.
They've been around for some time.
Okay,
They have a ton of SOCOM contracts.
got it.
They have most of the SOCOM contracts. Leupold has a lot of SOCOM contracts as well with their with their with the Trimmer 3 reticle in some of their optics. But everyone has their thing that they're good at and known for, right? And Trijicon is known for making combat optics, right? We've been on every rifle and machine gun in the Marine Corps for 20 plus years, almost 20 years.
Yeah. What did you get medically retired for? Is it your knee? What is it?
Predominantly my knees. Yeah, yeah.
Both of them, or just one? Or
Yeah, just my body just didn't handle the infantry or the mountaineering community as well as others, and the mileage just caught up with me.
you did some a mountain. You had a mountain based billet in the military. Is that right?
Yeah, I had predominantly climbing, but when I was at EOTG, the Expeditionary Operations Training Group, for my B billet, after I was the assistant operations officer there, I took over as the officer in charge of ropes and recovery branch. And so that school, there is an EOTG at every MEF in the Marine Corps. So 3 MEFs, Marine Expeditionary Forces, right? Oki, first over in Pendleton, and then second over in Lejeune. And so they are in charge of providing the schools and the certifications for everyone going out on Marine Expeditionary Units or MUs. So, Special Tactics Branch can do urban sniper. Stability Operations does non-lethal, tasing and baton work, right? Raids Branch does mech raids and dismounted raids, and Ropes Branch does fast rope masters course, helicopter rope suspension techniques course, and assault climbers course. And that's all that we did. And so part of the prerequisites for that was to go to Summer Mountain Leaders course out in Bridgeport. So I had to go, some of the other guys had to go to Summer Mountain Leaders course, which was, I'll forget my language, the best kick in the dick I ever had. And it's like 6 to 8 weeks of just going hard in Bridgeport. And that was an awesome time, a stressful time. We dropped a lot of guys, dropped a lot of officers too. And it's 30 knots blindfolded and timed. And I think it's like in the teens for systems as well. And it's a
You just
stressful
went
course.
right over my head. What does that mean?
So
I had no idea until you
I'm
talked
so
about it.
sorry. So at Mountain Leaders course in Bridgeport, you're tested on knots, right? Like
30,
rope
30 knots you're tying. Okay,
30
there we go.
knots.
Okay, I thought you were
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
you just go to like wind or
I'm so
what? Go ahead.
sorry. No, 30 knots, blindfolded and timed.
Oh
And
wow.
then you have to do your systems, right? Like a rope, one rope bridge or something like that, right? Using mechanical advantage and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that was stressful and fun. Just being a mountain man is I came out of that really fit, right? One of the best shapes of my life, right? Just mountain fit. Because you can't, to quote Donnie Vincent, you can't willy nilly around the mountains, man. And you're speedballing packs in, you're carrying, 100, 150 pounds in your pack, you're casevacing guys, and you're doing multi-pitch, single pitch, you're going across canyons. It's pretty arduous, but I digress a bit. But yeah, so I took over ropes and recovery branch and got my guys approved for some pretty cool courses there. We did Knowles Wilderness First Responder course.
Oh
And we
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, over there with
You
Padge.
get to go to Lander?
We went over to Pisgah with Padge,
Okay.
and then we did. I saw one of the other guys on the staff. We did Fox Mountain Guides with Carson DeLapp, single pitch instructor course as
Oh,
well,
good. Yeah.
over there in Brevard, I think. And so we did some cool stuff, and it was a great time, and I loved every bit of it. I loved it all. That was a phenomenal time. I had a phenomenal group of guys, phenomenal group of instructors, and I got a little spoiled there, but just really enjoyed the climbing aspect of it.
You just got back from the SHOT Show. How important is the SHOT Show to your job, to work, to Trijicon?
SHOT Show is a huge show for the whole industry.
I've never been, but I was
it's
curious.
insane. It's insane. So when I was in advanced tech, I'd have to grid the whole show, every aisle, just to not case, but just see what's out there, see
Yeah,
who's
right. You're
making
looking at
what.
what other guys are doing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not nefarious or anything like that. It's just like, oh, I saw this. This is interesting,
Do you got so you're making contacts here? I mean, are you actually sitting in a booth in there? Actually, you sitting at a booth?
So, the booths, a lot of the big booths have meeting rooms in them actually. And so,
Oh, really?
yep. So, all the military requirements offices go there, end users go there. There's reps from all the units, whatever tier they are, they go there because the whole industry is consolidated there, right? So it
So
makes
it's
sense
really
for
efficient
them.
for them to go. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
efficient for them to go, right? So yeah, work in the booth, setting up meetings, and that's a 8 to 8:30 or 9 to 5:30 every day. It's long days, man. And I don't play around there either. I'm in the gym at like 4:15 or 4:30, and I'm in bed. I'm in bed no later than 10. I'm serious. I don't deviate
You're
from it.
cranking. Yeah,
I,
yeah. Are there a
and
bunch of parties and stuff? Guys going to Spearmint Rhino and everything else?
I don't.
You never went to the Spearmint Rhino when you were
I
there.
I've heard of that establishment.
Oh, you liar.
Nope. Nope, I've
Never
never
been.
been. I don't plan on going, but it is a big, lot of rubbing elbows after
Yeah.
hours. But I don't mess around there.
Did you get to walk around the booth this year?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the, I mean, just, take me into the nerdy, kind of tactical stuff. What's the coolest stuff you saw? Is it like two things that, or one thing that kind of stood out and you said, this is kind of cool? Could be
Yeah.
like a knife or a gun or something or what?
So one thing that's really cool is Genesis Arms. They make a short barreled shotgun, a 5-inch suppressed short barreled shotgun that's full auto. And it collapses. I've shot it before. It collapses to like 18 to 20 inches, and it's awesome. I mean, it's just so cool, right? It's just one of those things you're like, I really want that. I
You
don't
don't
have a
need
need
it,
for
but you
that,
really want.
but I really want that. I really want that a lot.
Is it a 12 gauge?
Oh yeah, yeah.
How big's the magazine? How many rounds?
So they make a 5, a 10, a +2, and a 15-round drum, and it boasts pretty impressive shot groups actually, especially with the suppressor on there. But Genesis Arms, their shotguns were pretty sick, just plain cool.
How many guns do you own?
I got a few, but I don't collect them. All my guns have purposes. Right. So I got a goose gun. I got a waterfowl gun. I got a muzzleloader. I have a deer rifle. I have a Western rifle. I got a lever gun. I really don't have a gun that doesn't serve a purpose for me. Right. But I love them. And it's not good that I'm in this industry and I love, I love
Yeah.
weapons, but I don't want to sound cheesy, man, but it's just freedom for me. Like this is everything America stands for. The fact that I can own that and not be oppressed and defend my family, go out recreationally, provide for my family. I'm all about it, and my therapy is, walking the hills with a rifle. It's just,
Is
I
there
love it.
a range days at SHOT Show? Is there a range you can drive out to and guys go
Yep.
out and do? It's probably a
Yeah.
big part of it. Did you guys have a range day?
So Trijicon didn't partake in it as a company, but Prairie Fire, now called Staccato Vegas, is the range day at SHOT Show. And it's miles of ranges. It's everybody out there shooting. The other cool thing is I think Noveski had their new disruptive deep flute barrel out there, as well as Staccato had their new HD pistols, and Noveski was shooting the new 6 arc round, which is a pretty sweet round. But it's a huge range day. People get bussed out there. from the show, from the strip. I
Right, right,
mean,
right. Yeah,
and it's like an
and there's
hour drive. It's like 45
yeah,
minute
yeah.
drive. Yeah, it's a huge day.
What? Tell me about your Dall sheep hunt.
Man,
Where was that at? Was that in Wrangell, St. Elias, or was it out of
that was in the Alaska range.
Alaska Range? So you're up north then. Where did you flew in Anchorage and then bush plane to some place? Do you remember?
Yep. So, I was the mountain animals are my allure, and that was I was very fortunate. I don't know how I got selected for it, but that was a Trijicon hunt, and a hunt of a lifetime, right?
So
Obviously,
so the company paid for the hunt then?
so Stephen Benden is very generous, and every year he sends random employees on hunts.
Good for him. Yeah,
So I don't
awesome.
I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was better looking than another guy. I have no idea. But yeah, I got sent on this. I got selected on this hunt to go with Shar Catlin from The Experience on YouTube. Shar and Dan Catlin, and they're one of they're our sponsored hunters, and I went with her. And that was what an awesome thing, man. I worked up for that for about a year and a half of deliberate workup. I think the last year I ate 6 desserts. That was it. I worked on my marksmanship tremendously with Gunworks, and through
You
some
got a Gunworks rifle?
well, I went to their courses.
Okay. Oh
Uh,
wow, wow.
um, and it just so I wanted to be an asset, and I didn't want to be a liability, and I wanted to represent Trijicon well, and I was going to do my darndest to do so. And so we flew out to, my goodness, I thought it was fair. No, it was Anchorage, and then we took a prop plane about an hour south into camp. Had a 2.5 hour drive on 4-wheelers up to sheep sheep camp, and then Shar and her guide went another way, and I went with my guide another way, and it was 9 days, and my guide told me I was the fittest client he'd ever had. So I was really pleased to hear that. That I matched him step for step, but we connected on
Yeah,
day
because
9.
you're hiking, you're hunting, you're scouting from the. I mean, you're spotting from the ridges, right? So you got to get
Yep,
up.
we were running ridges, and it was just gorgeous up there, man. It snowed the first day or two. Uh,
What time of the year was the hunt? Was it
August.
August, July?
Yep,
August. Go
it was
ahead.
August. I'm sorry. So all the thoughts are coming back. So it was in August, uh,
Yeah.
and we just ran ridges, glassed, ran ridges, uh,
So
counted.
what was the day like? I mean, you're down low at the camp, right? You have a four-wheeler access to the camp. That means you got good place to stay and you sleep. You're not sleeping on it. You're not. Were you packing a camp on your back and staying
Yep.
on the ridges? Oh,
So
even cooler. Go ahead. Yeah.
they had like their main cabin set up where they did like caribou out of, and then sheep camp was was another ride. So base camp was at sheep camp, and then my guide and we took the 4-wheeler to the non-motorized border, and then we hiked from there, several miles from there on back. The 4-wheeler saved us a solid day. I mean, a whole day of travel. But we would wake up early in the morning, grab our mountain house, and then we just get scouting. And we'd put anywhere from 6 to 15 miles a day scouting. And we had a few close calls. The sheep I ended up connecting with, we actually saw on day 3, and he came within 50 yards of us, but we were pinned down by all the ewes. I mean, they were eyes on us. We'd been watching them kind of cross canyon on this face, and they just dipped down vertically, and we're over the ledge, and all of a sudden they're right here to our right. We don't know how they got there, but they were there, and we were just pinned down. And we crawled a little bit behind some boulders, and here comes that Alaskan Longhorn, and couldn't get a shot off on him. He ran off, and my guide and I, he's like, "Drop your pack, we're going." So I had all my binders and everything. I threw the rifle over, and we ran half a mile to get to a point where we thought we could see him. And we're looking left, looking right, and then we looked down and to the right, and we thought we saw him. So we ran another half mile. I mean, just one hand on the barrel, right, going, and then we lose the ram. We look back up over the ridge, and that was our ram. So we had seen a different ram that we thought was it, and he got the scoop on us. Went down this draw in this canyon and up, and it was just we were like, holy cow, man, what did we just do? So we hike back the mile, grab a snack, and we go after him. And that was a 8-mile, that was, I don't know, there was like a 10-mile round trip to where we went to look and where we came back. But we didn't see him the rest of the time. We put a few miles on. We put a chase on another one where we made moves. We ran. We like ruck walked for like a mile, or I'm sorry, for like 4 miles. Lost him, or he winded us, and then I tell you, it was so cool just walking in their steps. Right, you could see the paths that they had been wearing down that shale for decades. Right, and their ability to just climb altitude is insane. I mean, it's just, I mean, they're climbing like 1,000 feet in minutes, just minutes, you know? And so this one ram that winded us, I say he winded us. Some guys don't believe that, but I was smelling pretty bad. I was wearing the same merino top for about 5 days in a row. And we went back down to sheep camp every 3 or 4 days. So we would run out, you know, to keep kind of our food a little light. So we would hike up there, hang around for 3 or 4 days and come back up. But I say he winded us, and we just watched him climb up like 1,000 feet. We're like, well, there he goes. We're not catching him.
You got him on the ninth day of the hunt.
I did, yes.
9 of 10 days.
Yep. So we spotted. We came back around to our basin and found him with a band of his bros on day 8, on the evening of day 8, in some green patches way down in a valley. Not a good place to shoot a ram. And so what we did was we put him to bed, right? So you watch him until it's dark, and then you hit the rack, and you're like, oh, I hope he's there in the morning. And so we kind of figured out, you know, we were brainstorming back at the tent with my guy JD, and we're like, okay, we think he's going to come through this draw, so on and so forth. So we prepped. We went there the next day. We found him, and he was in a rough spot, man, like they always are. It was untouchable. And I'm trying to like harness like, I think I could rappel here. I could set up like an anchor, and then I'd sit on it, and then I'd look at it, and I'm like, that's not a good idea. That's, I got a family at home. I don't think it's working. And, JD's like, yeah, you're an idiot, man. Why would you want to do that? And so we waited all day for him to make his move, come down from this inaccessible place. Like I think we could have shot him, wouldn't have been able to get to him. Right. And that's obviously not right or legal, and never came up. So we're like, okay, we gotta figure out a game plan here. It's day 9, right? And we fly out on day 10. And so he actually moves to another little green patch that was 519 yards and a negative 32-degree angle down, and that was the shot. And I missed on the first time. I hit him on the second. And I tell you, if I hadn't done any long range training or gone to a formal school like Gunworks, I would have had zero confidence in taking that shot. I wouldn't have taken it. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been able to. But we connected. And then, just like any hunt, that's when the work begins, right? Work begins with a dead deer. And this guy went straight down a vertical cliff, and couldn't find him. So we descent, I think, about a mile's worth of down this mountain, and we find him, and he's down in this draw, in this like ice cave that was frozen over from last year's like water run or last year's snow. So he's 10 feet down at the bottom of the draw, and there's one ledge that's just so happens to be 5 feet from the top to the bottom. And so, we're stomping on the edge of the mouth of it.
Lift him up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I brought rope, right? I brought rope, and I got my 7mm neoprene knee sleeves on, and I'm saying a lot of prayers. And so, we punch down like the loose snow on the edge, on the mouth of it, and I go down first, and then I help my guy down, and he goes down, and he's just in here another 12 feet in. Okay, so 10 feet down and about 12 feet under, and so we tie it around his horns. And we pull him out. There's no way to pull him out downhill. Pull him up uphill.
You didn't cut him up and do it in pieces. Huh?
We couldn't see. It's dark, and by this time it was like 5:30 in the evening, and it was cold. It was cold down there, right? So
it's gonna be cold in there.
Yeah, so we hemmed and hawed him up, got him out on the ice. Didn't really have a hole. He was all gray, right? Because he fell, and
all
Went to
dirty.
work on them. Didn't have a whole lot of time to really appreciate them because we were losing light. Well,
Yeah.
we stepped off at 7:30 p.m. And I tell you, this pack out, my guide said this is the hardest pack out he ever did. And I tell you, if I had not done infantry officer's course or the Marine infantry, this would have been the hardest physical thing I did in my life. And I know Dall sheep are known for being in some arduous places. So we step off at 7:30, and within 30 meters, my left foot goes through a hole and I fall over a rock. I almost snap my tib with my pack on. And so I think my pack was with all of our stuff. We dumped some stuff off at the top of the mountain to lighten the load. But, we took the whole animal. In Alaska, you have to do that, right? And so we had the whole animal split between both of us.
Yeah. You can't leave
No, you can't leave it. So we took it all. We had it all.
You can't leave the ribs. Yeah, go ahead.
We had it all. And then it started raining on us. So 7:30 p.m. it started raining on us. And then we make this climb. And this whole time, I'm just like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But I was like, I don't know when I'm going to get top out, but I know sometime I will. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen or when. I end up taking two like shale or mudslides about 10 or 15 feet too along the way up there. And then when we start to get towards the top and can't find where we came down because it's dark now, right? Like we lost all light. We're at headlights and it's still raining on us, and my pack is frosting over now too. Well, we top off at 11:30 p.m. We top off at 11:30 p.m. So that was 4
4
hours
hours of hiking.
of doing, taking one step and losing three.
Yep.
And there was a fresh mudslide there too. Like there was grass coming down on it, and it was pretty sketchy, man. And it was hard. So we top off, and I'm like, holy cow, we still have miles before we get back to my tent. Miles of just huge boulders too. Like this isn't all just shale and broken down, sheet path. This is like legit boulders where you're using both trekking poles so you don't break your leg. Well, we get back to the tent at 2 in the morning, and boy, that was crazy, man.
It was a pretty good feeling when you saw that tent in your headlamp.
Yeah, that was good. So, we packed up everything out the next morning. We weighed our packs when we got back to the cabin. Mine was 110 pounds and his was 100, I think, with everything in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't really know what else to say. It was just a phenomenal experience. I think there's an Air Force base right there too. The Raptors were ripping through the canyons. We could see the pilots through the cockpits. We saw a few grizz, sow and cubs. Saw some cool caribou. It's just God's country out there, right? And just being out in God's creation, and it's just a phenomenal hunt, a phenomenal experience. And
If you could go back and if you could go back and change it, I mean, are you glad that you got him on the 9th day rather than the 3rd?
My only hope of getting him earlier was that we were going to go after wolves.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, dude, I want a wolf. I'd love to have a wolf, just a cool creature, right? I don't know what I'd do. I don't know if I would have tried to have stood up and take a shouldered snapshot, but my rifle's like 11 pounds, right? It's not a shoulder. That's not like a gun.
Your rifle's 10 pounds? Wow.
About 10 pounds with the scope on it. But I don't mind that. When I pull that thing out, I like to know where it's going. And that feeling, that gives me that feeling. It's not something you could just shoulder and swing, right? It's not a deer rifle in the woods of Virginia. And so maybe I would have attempted to take a shouldered snapshot at it, but it wasn't possible. It just wasn't. So all in all, though, I don't think I would have done anything else different. We did everything we could while staying safe.
Yes. Have you heard about the different stages of?
No, tell me.
And this is like somebody who's self-taught. You may have had your dad to help you self-taught. My dad killed when I was really young. But so the first stage is there's no fucking way. This is impossible. And then the next stage, you finally get some success. You're like, awesome. And then you're like, shooting anything. Doesn't matter how big it is, right? And the next stage is like, I'm going to start being selective. Maybe going for trophy animals or whatever. And then the final stage is, you know what? It's really not about killing anything. I just like being out here. And it took me a while to get to that stage, but yeah, sure enjoy the. You know what? Just like spearfishing makes snorkeling much more interesting, and hunting
Sure.
makes backpacking much more interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of personalities out there, right, that are saying, it's not about the kill or not about the hunt. It's just about being outdoors. But it really is that for me, man. I just, my dad runs a hunt club out in Bath County, Virginia, in Western Virginia. Got a little cabin out there, no power, no cell service, right? And so I do a lot of my hunting out there, and I gotta tell you, it is so refreshing and nourishing to just go out there and disconnect, decompress, and just be in the mountains. Excuse me, with no cell service and just running around with a rifle, right? Like that really is it for me. Like that's my fix, right? And especially people make all the mountains of Virginia hills, and they're not very big, but just walking around those mountains out there, for a day at a time, it's only a few miles, maybe 4 to 10 miles a day, but it's just, I need that, right? That's me taking myself out for a walk, but you can't willy nilly out there either, right? So last year, actually, I haven't shot very many bucks in my life at all, actually. But last year I went in on my last day out there. I started sitting in the morning and I was like, I'm bored. I'm going to go spot and
You're
stalk.
doing a tree stand hunting mostly, or is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of tree stand hunting down. So we got like the lower 200s in the fields and by the river, and the upper two is all mountains. It's all mountains, and it borders a national forest. So I sat in the stand in the morning on the mountainside, and I was like, I'm bored. So I went in about 4 miles, and I found this buck in his bed. I was doing like
Really? A
battle.
whitetail?
I was doing like crest battle drills, going over the hill and like searching
Oh yeah, yeah.
and spotting and stalking in the timber in the east in Virginia is, you got to go slow, man. It's thick. But I found this buck in his bed, right? Like almost unheard of, right? The king in his
Did you
castle.
see tracks before you? Were you tracking him at all, or you just came on him? You just looked
Nope.
for him.
Nope. I saw some rubs and I just kind of started following them a little bit. And then I came up. I was looking at my Gaia app, and I was like, oh, there's like a bowl here with a saddle, and I was like, might be some good win there for the buck. Well, I found this guy. Got him with my muzzleloader, super
How did
stoked.
you first see him? I mean, what did you
I
see first?
just
You see an
I just
antler, or
I just saw the body. I was like, that's a deer, I was like, there's a deer. And then I saw the head turn, right? And
you saw antlers? Yeah.
I saw antlers, and my oldest daughter, she was like, I sent her the pictures when I got back, and I had cell service. She called it a dinky buck. It's like a little 7-pointer, but I was like, that's that's my buck. I found that. But to my point, I shot that thing, and I'm like, holy cow, what did I just do? Like I I had
Now
a
you're 4 miles out.
I had a day pack. I had a day pack. I had no water, and I had one granola bar and some 550
Yeah.
cord.
You,
I'm
you're
like,
not you're not rolling in there with a Western hunting pack ready to
no,
break down.
no, no, I wasn't, right, because I was like, I'm gonna go on a walkabout, and just stretch my legs. But so dude, I put some 550 cord around those antlers, and found a stick, like that thick, and I drug him out like a prowl, like the sled, like the prowler sled.
Yeah.
I drug him out, and it took me like 2 hours. And I'm like, it was horrible.
I've done that with the cow elk before.
It's
It's
horrible. It was
stupid.
horrible, And I sent a text up on the mountain. I had enough cell service. I texted the club. I was like, if anybody gets this, I'm here. Please come help. And then I show up. I finally get back to the 4-wheeler. I load it up there. I'm smoked, man. And I get back, and I'm like, I just shot a buck, and they're like, cool, let's go see it. And they're like, that's what you shot? And I'm like, get out of here, man. You know what I just did for this? You know what I just did for this thing? But that, to my point, that was like one of the most rewarding things, right? Like I went in the mountains. I went on my walkabout. I found this guy. I found this buck in his lair, right? Took him and worked for him on the way out, right? But that's like the fix for me, and that's what I need.
You do any archery hunting?
I used to do a little bit. I had shoulder and bicep surgery in 21, and I really haven't shot my bow since then. But my girls, I shot my bow last year. My girls shoot a little bit, but I've only really hunted bow, I think maybe 3 seasons in my life. That's it.
Have you hunted elk in the West at all?
Yep. Yeah, once. So my dad and I told you my dad's my best friend when we hunt together to this day. We did elk hunt in Idaho in 21, and we went with a service and both got elk back to back days, and that was a really phenomenal experience. Another long range shot that I contribute to, the Gunworks course. But what a regal animal, man! What a gorgeous animal that is, and a ton of meat. I think I finished the meat off a year ago.
Yeah, I think they're big.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Great. I really enjoyed that. I didn't get buck fever like I thought I was, and or nor like I do with whitetails. Right, with whitetails, I'll get buck fever all day long, man, to the point where I can't. My teeth will chatter and my knees will shake, and I can't take a shot. But I don't know if it was because the elk was so far away, or if I just hadn't, hunted it before. But I didn't really get the buck fever like I thought I was, so I was pretty pleased with that. But I loved it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been hunting whitetail my whole life since I was a kid, but I feel like the elk, if I had hunt one animal, the elk is a pretty close run into second next to the whitetail for me. Beautiful animal.
Yeah. I got into for years. I was just pretty much a meat hunter. I just shoot a cow elk in the fall. And it went, when the migration started. Not. Then for some reason, I picked up a bow and started bow hunting, and oh my god, it's a
Yeah.
different animal.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting experience because it's so audible. You're calling them in, learn to call and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
follow. It's just amazing. It's really
It,
interesting.
it's intimate, for sure. Right. And it's therapeutic as well. My first season that I bow hunted whitetail, I practiced. Man, I was shooting playing cards at 40 yards. I think I shot every day for like 3 months in a row. And I was dialed in, and I found this, I came across this buck at 40 yards, or he came across the deer stand at 40 yards, and he jumped the arrow, man. He jumped the arrow. And at that moment, I was like, okay, now I know why bow hunters are hooked, right? It's just you have to put in so much work physically, right, with your weapon system, which is more nuances than a rifle.
Oh yeah.
And then, and then the spot, right? Like you're like, well, I can't, with your own, knowing your own capabilities and limitations, right? And me being a kind of a novice bow hunter, I'm like, I'm not taking a far shot. I'm aiming for like 30 yards, right? So now I got to pick my spot, and now I got to work harder to figure out the animal's behavior, right? And what he's doing and when he's doing it, and how can I get in there? And so when that buck jumped the arrow, I was like, all right, I know why guys are hooked. It's awesome for sure.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing about the archery side is you first get into it, you kind of depended on the shop to do your tuning for you, and I quickly grew weary of that. I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch YouTube, and I bought my own press and stuff, and now I can build bows and stuff, and it's pretty rewarding, and it really makes the hunting last so much longer. You're you can shoot all year long, and then definitely in the spring and summer you're ready to go. Yeah, it's really interesting. Do you I saw you had like a photo of a dog. Do you bird hunt too with a dog? Do you have a dog
I do.
or dogs?
I have a dog. I don't
Yeah.
hunt with him yet. I have a German short-haired pointer. His name's Hank. He's
Okay. Yeah. So he's
two
still
years
new.
old. Yeah, he's 2 years
Yeah.
old, and he's about 70 pounds. I do plan to hunt with him. I want to hunt with him. That's why I got him. I just hadn't had the chance to take him to a school yet. But he's my second one. I rescued one a number of years ago in Lejeune. Ended up having to rehome him. I had a boxer. Samson
They
was
get
like
along.
a 70-pound meat stick, and they didn't get along very well. So I had to rehome him. But I do plan to hunt him.
So tell me about your outdoor season. I guess there in Virginia. You grew up there. Do you fish at all?
Yep, I love to fish. I'm not a skilled or knowledgeable fisherman by any means, but you give me a rod and a reel, and I'll cast, all day long. My girls love to fish too. They'll fish 8 hours a day with me. Some local lakes here, some small lakes here in the area. But just grew up freshwater, even catfish out in Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia, which is a huge lake. I think it's one of the biggest man-made lakes in the U.S. But whatever it is, snakehead, catfish, bluegill, I love it. I really enjoy it. If we have a big enough catch, we take it home and we eat it.
Do you your whitetail season extend into December?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So does bear, but I do not believe you can carry two different rifles. So it's bear rifle and deer muzzleloader.
Got it. So
And
you got
so
to choose.
Yeah, you got to choose. Yeah. And so this year we actually had a massive bear on the club, it was close to
So when you
500
say
pounds.
club, this is your dad's kind of farm.
So it's a 400-acre lease,
Got it.
and
Okay, so lease. Got it.
there's about four father and sons, and that's it. And we run a utopia of a club. There's no first come first serve. There's no jiving for spots. We share all the game cam footage. If somebody shoots something, we get out and get down and help them. We have our own work weeks, weekends throughout the year. We do our own cookouts. It's just it's a great club.
Oh, what a great, yeah.
Yeah, but I ran around with the lever gun, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go after deer this year. But the whitetail season is several months long, especially if you shoot archery and muzzleloader, right? Because you can extend your season.
Right.
Right.
So you're outdoor. Do you take a? I guess you're not skiing or anything with your knees, right? You're not heading west to ski in this
No,
winter.
my family skied in high school because we grew up in the Shenandoah Valley, and Mass Nutton Ski Resort is right there. We skied we went on a trip out west twice. I think we skied out there, and we would go up to Wintergreen or West Virginia. So I definitely don't ski anymore. No, I haven't skied since. I don't think I've skied since high school.
How are your knees now?
Well, funny you ask, because I really messed my left knee up bad on hypertrophy day 1 on Monday on the back squats.
No,
So
just angry
overall,
at you now.
yeah. So overall, my knees are really horrible. They're both completely reconstructed. Arthritis, rounding, all the chronic inflammation, all the things, right? And so I really have to. I say this, but I really have to guard them. And so on Monday, I was doing the hypertrophy plan, hit the front squats, great, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try some back squats, and I just wrecked it,
Yeah.
man. My
Hypertrophy is a lot of reps. Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
I still wrecked it. I hit like set 2, and I couldn't do it. So today I started the injured leg program,
Yeah,
which was
one leg.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since it's Wednesday, I started day 3. I'll start over next week on day 1, but it was great. But it's really my left knee that is the chronic. My right knee is better than that for some reason, but I really have to guard them. So my workup for my Dall sheep hunt, I used your article in the Journal of Mountain Hunting, the workup plan for that from summer of 17. And I did that, and I really eased into that with my knee sleeves and everything like that. I didn't have any problems with my knees for the hunt, other than after the pack out and during the workup.
Well, that's good news. I mean, my knees are pretty bad now, so I don't have reconstructive surgery. I do have a hip replaced though, and a foot fusion.
Yeah,
You do any competitive shooting?
I do some competitions every now and then. I used to do USPSA monthly, which is just you kind of walk up and do a pistol course of fire. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's very approachable. There's not a lot of construct to how you approach the stages. I used to do that every month with my job and recreationally. But since my girls got older, I was like, man, that's one less Saturday I have on the weekends with them.
Yeah.
So I occasionally, I'm getting ready, or I was going to get ready to go out and do Moons Out, Goons Out night competition in March in West Virginia. And then I do some others locally. But a really cool thing is that professional shooter Brian Nelson lives here and shoots on the training complex that we have our range. So I shoot with him every now and then. And then any other time there's some personalities coming in to teach a course, I try and hop on with them as well.
At the range there just to take the course.
Yep. Yeah.
How much do the professional shooters impact, I guess, optic and firearm design? Is there a lot of feedback from them that enhances stuff or no?
There is valuable feedback. I would
Just a
say
professional shooter type, or this. I mean, it's if the leading professional shooter is using a certain optic, does that affect military sales? Probably not. I'm not sure.
Well, okay. So in general, the military and the commercial market influence each other and they ebb and flow, right? So there's the span of years where the military influences the commercial market. Well, the last few years, the commercial market has been influencing the military market.
Got it.
But to your other question in regards to shooters influencing optics, our specialized reflex optic, for example, we made for competitive shooters and novice shooters. It's the biggest pistol red dot window that we make. And so we did that so that you can easily acquire the sight or the red dot, and you can easily track your dot through the recoil of the shot. So there's an example where, hey, competitive shooters had influence in the design of an optic as well. But I would say outside of that, from my perspective, working on the military side, right? It's the anticipated environment of which creates the requests. Like, hey, the RMR, for example, our most iconic pistol red dot, right? The toughest red dot on the market. It can take over 12,000 pounds of crush force. It has an ambient light sensor, right? So ambient is where the shooter's at, right? So if you're inside and the lights dim, the dot will dim down as well. Well, we had some guys say, hey, we want something that senses forward. So if I'm shooting outside to in or inside to out, it'll sense target light, not shooter's light. And so we put that in our new RMR HD, and it's got a forward light sensor on the front of it for a pistol red dot, which is really pretty unique. It senses about 10 yards downrange, and it lives with the light. So if you put like a white light on a white wall, the dot will illuminate and live with that, and you die it back down and you go nods, it'll be adequate for that too. So it can depend on where it comes from, whether it's hey, we anticipate something like this, so we're going to try and incorporate it, or competitive shooter, hey, I want a bigger window. Right, cool, here's this kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's interesting. Is it at the point now in optics and firearms where there's small incremental changes, nothing big or that anybody sees over the horizon?
It can depend on the company. A lot of companies are more evolutionary than revolutionary.
Yeah.
And so, Trijicon, for example, we have a great legacy of optics. And so we're always looking at the next best thing, just like any other company is. But, it works for us that we, advance our technologies in an evolutionary process because we have such a good baseline to work off of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then some other companies are just, here's the new sliced bread. And I don't know what that is.
Since you've been working in the industry, is there any examples in either firearm, ammunition, or optics where there was one of those new sliced bread things that came out that shifted the whole industry one way or another?
The answer is yes. Let me think. I think on that realm, it's probably thermal optics, right? So the most nimble industries are probably textiles and optics, right? You can't it's hard to reinvent a weapon system, right? So think how long the AR-15's been in service, or the 240, right? Decades. And now the Marine military is just looking at the next gen squad weapon from, they had a down select from SIG and Textron and some other companies.
And it's a different caliber, right? It's a little bit different caliber, isn't it?
They're looking at a different caliber too. It's a 6.8 caliber, which is a high pressure round, has some phenomenal performance on certain things that make it attractive.
What caliber do you shoot with your long range rifle?
So my Western gun is a 7 Rim Mag. Yep, grew up shooting 308. That was my 308 was the first gun I bought in my name 2 weeks after I turned 18. It was a Savage Scout with a Simmons 3x9 at Runyon Sporting Goods for $500. And I knew the military used it, and I wanted a bigger caliber than what my dad had. I think he had a 270. I was like, I want that 308. Give me that thing. But I got a 7 Rim Mag. I absolutely love that round. I'm not really a ballistic geek. But I did my research. I called around to a lot of companies, and asked them, do I want a 28 Nosler? Do I want a 7 Rim Mag? Do I want a 7 SAUM? So on and so forth. And I picked one that had been around the longest. I also identify as recoil sensitive. So I wanted something that I wasn't going to get a beat up using and would enjoy practicing shooting. And that was a 7 Rim Mag for me. But getting back, I think thermal optics are where there's some pretty cool technology going on.
So thermal optics is where you're going to look through and you can see somebody who's concealed, correct? Or am I missing something?
So that's heat. It's all heat. It's all heat signature.
Right. Okay.
Right. So NVGs or night vision goggles is all ambient light, right? So stars, the moon, street lamp, whatever it is. But thermal is day or night, right? Because it's just heat. It doesn't matter. So you can burn through vegetation and see a heat signature to an extent. You can see a drone in the daytime, depending on the band of spectrum. So there's short, medium, and long wave. Infrared, you can see through glass. So on short wave, you can see through glass to an extent. So in Sicario 2, where they're in the Humvee and they're looking through the thermal, unless they have SWIR, the shortwave infrared, they're not going to be able to look through the glass. But on the electro-optic side of the house, the EO side of the house, that's probably where the advancements are going to be coming from for sure.
From that side. So interesting. What's the worst part of your job?
I enjoy traveling for my job, but the worst part is being away from my family.
How much do you travel?
It can flex. So, I make my own travel schedule based off of the needs of the Marine Corps and when I'm requested. For example, I may not travel for 2 months at all, but the latter half of last year, I was gone twice a month for 4 or 5 months in a row. It just all depends on the ebb and the flow. There's really no standard, but I could be gone for 2 nights and 3 days, or I could be gone for a whole week.
So you're not major in the Marine Corps. Such an interesting dynamic with the up and out for the officers' corps in the military, and the competition and the self-promotion and all the other stuff that kind of comes and goes with that. Do you feel that same in your current job? I mean, you need to understand, you need to perform or you're going to lose your job. But could you stay at your current job for another 10 years? Or is there an expectation that you need to move up and out and make room for somebody else?
I would absolutely stay in my job for the next 10 years. I would absolutely. And it may not be what others want to hear. I can't tell you I love my job. I really do. And that was one of the things I didn't want to negotiate on what I wanted to do when I got out. As in, like, I want to do my dream job and I wanted to be in the industry, right? So that's what I went after. And so, giving God the glory, I got that job. And especially being with a family-owned small business that has such a lineage of combat optics in this nation, and being with the Marine Corps, it's very altruistic for me, Rob. I can't emphasize enough. I have yet to go to work. It's very altruistic for me, and I'm getting to help guys in ways that I wanted to in the Marine Corps that I couldn't. And I think a big part of that is
what do you mean to help guys?
So, I realize at the end of the day, it's not all about Trijicon, right? It's not about Trijicon. It's about being an asset to the Marine Corps, right? So if I know, not everyone likes Trijicon. Trijicon may not get selected. Other people make great products and they deserve the win too, right? If they make a better product, they deserve to win as well. But, where else can I help out at? Knowledge gaps, right? So how can I help out? I can help guys understand things better, right? And so, I've come up with approval of the company in engineering time with a whole family of what I've called Optics 101 presentations that break down multispectral technology, reticle illumination, all brand agnostic, right? Optic trade space. How do you design an optic? So guys that are in the requirements community and they come down and say, hey, we need this, but it has to be this short. Well, let me tell you, if it's going to be this short, we're going to have to put more glass, thicker glass in it, and it's going to be heavier because we have to bend light in a shorter distance, and it's going to be more expensive and it's going to weigh more, right? I just want to be an asset, and I'm here to help. That's brought me a long way in the Marine Corps, just being a good dude, for a lack of better terms, right? And so, I may help out an entity with optics, but because the industry is a small place, I may be able to help them out with gear or any other equipment just through my relationship with them, right? And so the holistic aspect, the holistic approach of, hey, well, you want to know more about Aimpoint? Well, here's this guy's number. Here's the Marine Corps rep at Aimpoint. Here's his number. Call him, or you want to test out this loophole? Well, we'll bring it to the range with our optics and you can compare them, right? Because if one was just concerned about your brand of optic, I think that would be ignorant, and I don't think it would come across genuine at all. Right. And so in that aspect, it's altruistic for me. Right. So I'm getting to help guys understand things.
I was going to ask that if you guys, if you actively, got other brands' products and test them out and tried them. I imagine you did. It's just opposition research.
We all do, right? So personally and professionally, right? You need to get educated on your competition's optics, right? So what's the trade space of this optic versus ours? What's the pro and what's the con? What does the end user see? And I need to shoot that so I can experience, right? You talk the talk, you walk the walk. You need to be able to speak educated and smartly on everything that's out there, right? So that, to my point, so that when the conversation happens, you can be the asset. Right, you can be the guy they go to for the knowledge, and you can help them.
Is there any outside adventure, hunt, triathlon, long hike, long swim with your broken down knees? Anything on your that you're kind of training for, or you want to train for eventually?
Yeah, so my dad, well, in the short term, my dad and I are prepping for a mule deer hunt in the eastern plains of Colorado this November.
Is it
Um,
guided or on your guys'
yeah,
own?
yeah, it's guided.
It's
Yeah, it's
guided.
guided.
Good deal. Yeah.
My dad's about to be 69, so I'd like it to be guided. We'd like it to be guided. We plan on doing an aoudad hunt in 26, which could be
That's in
a
New
little.
Mexico or
I
Arizona?
I think it. I might be in Texas.
Okay, Texas.
I'm not sure at the moment, but it's just something. It's something we're planning. I don't want to be a downer. I don't have some extreme physical goal other than, hey, I want to do more mountain hunts. Right. That's really, I identify as a hunter. That's what I want to do. But that being said, being physically fit is more. It's got to be more than just a lifestyle, right? I owe it to my family. I owe it to my loved ones, right? I owe it to my girls to be an example of what it's like to be, a fit and healthy dad and provider and protector of the family, and so that they can also have good expectations for their future boyfriends. But it's multifold in the sense that I want to represent Trijicon well too, and
Well, that's
can't go in
interesting,
front of
right?
it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, is there any peers and other companies or kind of fat slobs that you look better than? That's an interesting element to bring up. Go ahead.
I'll just say, I can't go in front of a tiered unit and not be physically fit, right? If I want to roll with them, if I want to do what they're doing or do what they ask me to do with them, I need to be fit too, right? I'm not doing a 5 or 10K fin in the water, but I need to be able to hold my own. And I've had requests in the past, like, hey, we're doing a thing out in the Tetons. Can you come with us? Hey, we're doing runs in the house or whatever it may be. I want to represent Trijicon well too, but it's also, for my own reputation as well, right? And then for the health and longevity part, right? So going to the gym isn't just some hobby or just something that I do, right? It's multifold for me. And although I may not be trying to do like a rim to rim out in Colorado or trying to, summit Mount Shasta, I want to do more mountain hunts. I need to stay physically fit for my job, and for my family as well.
In terms of dealing with different operators from the different services, what are the traits of the guys that are douchebags? Because there are douchebags, right?
Yep. So, I mean, in the Marine Corps, I was a straight leg. I was in just in the infantry. I do a lot of work with some tiered units, and I think at that level, a lot of them are weeded out. But in the fleet, in the infantry, the douchebags are, well, they don't carry their own weight. They're not physically fit. Right. That's one thing, Rob. I'm going to digress a little bit. That's one thing I miss about the Marine Corps was just you could be what was it? You could be a bad leader, but being physically fit and be a good leader, or you could be a great leader and be fat or out of shape and not be a good leader. And I kind of miss, not in a bullying way, but I miss the public crucifixion of people who weren't fit, who didn't take their job seriously in the aspect of physical fitness. I like that because it kept everybody honest, right? All the unspoken things that society doesn't want to mention out on the table in the Marine Corps, right? In the infantry. But guys that don't hold their weight, guys that aren't physically fit, and I think guys that can't or don't accept the fact that they need the experience of the rest of their unit to do the job successfully. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
if you think you're self-reliant or you know everything because of your rank, you're wrong. There's a time and place for that, right? And rank, we'll just say rank. The higher the rank, the more experience is implied, right? But I remember hitting the fleet as a brand new wide-eyed, bushy-tailed platoon commander coming from IOC, and I made sure that my guys knew that I couldn't do my job without them, right? I knew I was doctrinally sound from the schoolhouse, right? Like I knew doctrine, but the experience and the SOPs wasn't there. And so guys who go into positions of leadership or any leadership billet, whether you're a fire team leader or a battalion commander, without acknowledging and making it known that they need others to help them do their job, that's a sign of the aforementioned person you were talking about.
Okay. Run me through a scenario. you get a call from head guy at Trijicon, like you had him, but you're fired. And you're like, right? So then you get a call from some other guy, and he says, Adam, I just heard you got fired from Trijicon. I want you to start a new company industry, and I'm going to finance you. But I want you to tell me right now what that company is and what the market you're going to go after. What's the market you're going to go after? Defense industry wide.
Got it, Rob.
And you're going to be the president.
Wow, you got me there, man. What popped in my head was some sort of consulting business. Now, there's quite a few companies out there that consult and help out with basically being professional shoppers for whatever needs the military needs, but the level of interface is not personal, right? So it could be a business that interfaces or consults on a personal basis down at the lower levels of the end user group to get the requirements up to the businesses that provide the material solutions.
So you'd work with both the operators and industry guys trying to get their
vendors
business.
And the vendors. That's what pops in my head. That's what's off the top of my head. So I just
so
think
you see an opportunity there then, probably from your what'd you call your Optics 101 instruction. That's been a success for you.
I think it comes from just tactfully maintaining strategic relationships.
Interesting. So relationships. Okay, so let's say you didn't get the call from the defense industry guy. He says, Adam, I saw your Instagram post of that. I heard the story on MTI podcast of that tiny ass little buck you killed. We're so proud of, and I want you to start a new company in the hunting space industry. It has to be in the industry. What's the company? What are you going to make?
Dang. In the hunting space, I think it would be cool to have a service that compiled hunting lessons learned. So in the Marine Corps, you have Marine Corps Center of Lessons Learned. I think it'd be a great idea to have some service that took forums or professional hunters or places like MTI and got their feedback on, hey, I did this workup for this hunt. I chose this equipment and so on and so forth. And this is what I found worked for me. And this is what I found didn't work for me. Topic discussion recommendation. And this is what I would do differently next time. So any guy who's like, hey, I want to do an elk hunt in Idaho. And he can go on this website and be like, oh, elk hunt, Idaho, rifle, fitness, gear, guide service, whatever it may be. I think that would be a good idea.
Have you read the essay I wrote called "Did I Hunt Well"?
No, I have not.
Do you think that in hunting and I guess in military operations, way too much attention and time is put on fitness and gear and not enough on skill? You had described, for example, the when you got your buck, making sure you didn't crest fast.
Yeah.
It took me a while in several missed opportunities at antelope to learn to go up slow, and eventually so slow, that I would take a step and then with my glasses try to see antelope ears through the top of the grass on the other side, and then take another step. And that is nothing to do with a fancy ass pair of sunglasses or fancy, $200 hike, mountain pants.
Yeah, in the military, it's called tactical patience. So, for example, you're setting in an ambush. You have to train. You have to know when. You have to force yourself to wait until the right time to initiate the ambush, right? And I think to your point, and to the example you brought up on the crest in the hills, yeah. So I think the answer is yes. I think it's a big thing on fitness, big thing on gear, right? Because it gets a lot of attention. But as far as the craft goes, the skill craft, the field craft of hunting and actually doing the thing while you're out there, I don't think there's enough emphasis on that.
Have you ever taken a call from somebody who was all gunning to buy something from you and you said, you know what, you got what you need. You don't need something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've told them that.
Sure. Yeah. Everyone makes something that fits some sort of niche, and one company can't be the end all be all.
Any questions about your life that I didn't ask that I should have?
I think you covered a lot. Fitness and health has been a huge part of my life. I've dealt with all chronic musculoskeletal injuries for the better part of a decade. And that's had a huge play on my approach to all my hobbies and my lifestyle, right? So for the past 7 years, it's been like I'll have a good 12 to 15 week run, and then I'll get injured, and then I'm doing rehab, or I'll have a surgery, and then I'm taking myself out of the fight, right? Having a surgery, getting rehab, getting back into it, and then I have another injury. And that used to really affect me mentally. When I got injured, coming from the service, right? When you get injured, like you can't run, you can't do your job, you feel like an invalid, you feel incapable at your job, and like as a provider for your family too, almost, right? You're like, I can't defend my family or anything, right? And that used to really get to me. And so a lot of times I wouldn't work out at all. It just, I gave into it, and it beat me up. And so I struggled with that for like 5 years. So I would go through that cycle, and then I wasted years of my life, years of my health and fitness by giving into that. And my ram hunt, my workup and my post ram hunt really kind of changed that for me, right? Because I really saw that I put so much time and effort, deliberate and focused effort into this one thing, right? This ram hunt. And on the back end of it, right, my body was aching really. I was hurting bad, right? So, I was like, oh, I'll give myself a week. I kind of took a week off. And then that little inner voice, it was like, you can take more off. You can take it easy. You did this huge thing. And that kind of flipped a switch for me, right? And I stopped giving into that inner voice and started continuing to push through, that mental defect, if you will. And for example, just recently, right, on Monday, I was telling you, I see the ortho on Thursday, but I really messed my knee up bad. And so I was like, hot dog, I got this injured leg program from MTI. I've made all this progress. I've been going strong for about 15 weeks actually on fitness and my nutrition. And I was like, I'm not putting this to waste again anymore. And so I just wanted to kind of share that for whatever it's worth. It may not answer your question directly, but outside of that, making that known or sharing that with others, I think that's about it.
Well, it's so interesting how organic, that programming came from. The idea that you can train the rest of your body around an injury. I would have athletes come into the gym. And there's one guy in particular was a sponsored snowboarder. He's an incredible talented guy, pretty intense guy, and he came in. I forget what he did. He messed up a leg, had a knee injury or something. And so I said, well, I'm not going to treat you any different. So we just started modifying the exercise the other guys were doing. Instead of doing one leg, or friggin' power cleans, from standing. This guy's so talented. I had him do power cleans with, hang power cleans light, standing one leg. You know what I mean? The other people were doing 2-footed sled pushes. He was doing one leg sled pushes. There's no reason. I mean, he, if there was something run or something he couldn't do, I'd have him row with one leg, or he would do a lot more upper body stuff. And it was so interesting at the end of the cycle when he finally got back. He was kind of the guy you never think would train, really intense athlete, but and in the snowboarding culture, it's kind of looked down upon if you train. It's kind of like not cool in that bro bra culture. And he got jacked. I mean, he got jacked. I used to tease him because he was tight in his shirt. Yeah. I said, "You like that, Matt? Don't you? You like it?" We used to tease him, and he was like all self-conscious. Kelly kind of liked it. He's always been like the skinny guy,
Yeah.
Yeah, I never suffered from that. I always have trained, but I have a son who got injured and he got down and stopped training for a while. Fitness is always important to him. So it's interesting to hear you say that. Before I hit the lightning round, any questions for me that you always wanted to ask? Or any questions for me?
I mean, I don't know we have enough time left. Kind of the origin story of how you started MTI, right? Like, what was your motivation and what was that like?
Yeah, I always been a gym rat and had moved back to Wyoming after getting on the Coast Guard and started a newspaper there actually, and then bought another newspaper and decided to move on from that. Didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but before I had sold my newspaper, I was one of those guys who would go to the gym and train, and other people just want to start training with me because I was doing different stuff. And I was in this this little town I lived in. There was no like commercial gym at all, and there was this one like physical therapy place, and they had like a universal machine in one rack, and there would be in a bunch of treadmills and tables they'd be working on people. And so I was training there, in the afternoon. But the lady who owned it said, "Hey, I want you to and start coaching. And I said, all right. So I got like this weekend personal training certification from like this company in Idaho. And I said, all right. And I was still, well known in the community because I owned the newspaper and was editor of the small, and I had these friggin' soccer moms come in. And, these all like these 30-year-old soccer moms. I mean, I don't know if you ever trained a women, but like they get out and I would throw stuff. I mean, we'd do sprints. I remember one time I had them out. We had an irrigation ditch like up behind us. I'd have them friggin', they were, like breaststroking against the water, against the current irrigation ditch, and then running out and doing sprints and burpees out in the dirt. These women, they love that stuff. And then when I finally saw my newspaper, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. If you're a worker like I am, you don't do well with time on your hands. And so I said, hey, I'm just going to go start a gym in Jackson, Wyoming, which is like 70 miles north of where I was at the time. I want to train mountain athletes. So I said, I'll come up mountain athlete and start training mountain athletes. And no idea. What we do is I went up there, rented a space and bought some equipment and contacted some local guides to say, I'll train your guides for free. And pretty soon I had a bunch of mountain guides in there training. And I quickly learned that this is like 2008, 2007, 2008, I think. Quickly learned that all of the mountain, there was really no well done theory about training for mountain sports. There were a few rock climbing books, but there was no book that told you how to train to, do a peak bag, safely. And so I made plenty of mistakes, but the military reached out to me because it was 2009 was a surge in Afghanistan. Guys were getting deployed over there, just getting smoked in the hiking. And so that's got, after enough emails, we put our weight training up, and then I designed the Afghan pre-deployment training plan and gave it away, gave thousands of those away. Individual guys, multiple battalion commanders, they used for the entire battalions. I had a lot of the guys in the military came know our stuff, and then kind of went on from that. Guys started asking for more military programming, and then we started getting very specific with selection programming. And I can't tell you 100 guys probably used our ruck-based selection program for SFAS, and now we've moved into all the different ones. So what's been so interesting is the idea. This was kind of advent. I was right there at the same time CrossFit was starting, which definitely helped. I remember one of the first CrossFit certifications, and thought about going that route, but I could, I knew I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't like that, and I really didn't like the idea of fitness as a sport. I think it's fine for people to do, but that's kind of like with Dwight on that. Fitness isn't a sport; it's just a means, it's a tool to do something outside. And so I really like the idea of outside the gym performance. And what that also means from an intellectual perspective is that you're not tied to any method of strength conditioning programming. And so, if something doesn't work, it's how come we do so much research. We had to develop our own style of research. If you look at academic research, generally they'll say it takes at least 8 weeks to learn if one programming works better than the other. No, trained athletes, I can tell them a 3-week cycle if one way of getting strong is better than the other. So we started doing that and rapidly doing stuff. And so, just one thing led the other. Pursuing, we had law enforcement guys wanting stuff for their schools, and patrol officer, and then fire rescue, and then we moved into wildland stuff. And intellectually, I don't know if there's a more fun strength conditioning job out there, just because the breadth of the variety of the programming is so unique. And I've been able to, my general approach to the base fitness programming, the day-to-day programming for all these athletes is the same. There are nuances, of course. For example, a law enforcement patrolman doesn't need to be doing heavy rucks, like a infantry guy. And an infantry guy doesn't need to, even though he wants to, doesn't need to be getting big chest and arms like a law enforcement patrolman who kind of needs that for intimidation. But so it's been an interesting work for sure.
Nice. And now you have 405 programs.
Or more.
Yeah,
more all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
The daily stream's been I program all the daily programming, and it's a lot of work, but it also is a way to keep pushing the programming, get better.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah. All right, lightning round questions. We're almost done here. Let's see. Most scared you've ever been at work, and I guess that would be physical physical fear, maybe from your military days, but maybe you really messed up in your current job and you thought you're going to get fired. So the most scared you've ever been at work.
I think the most scared I've ever been at work was when I was at Summer Mountain Leaders course and we were getting ready to do multi-pitch the next day on a big face, which I think is like 200. It's a few hundred feet. Well, they split up, me and my buddy, one of my Marines, Eddie, and I. And so he's, I was his OIC. We came from the same unit, and we've been climbing partners the whole time. And they passed me off to this foreign military guy who didn't speak English. And I was friends with the OIC, and I was like, they gave us like a short class on multi-pitch anchors and stuff like that, and then they're like, all right, the rest is up to you. Tomorrow we go. And they were like, Aikens, Eddie, switch, Adam, you're with this guy. And I'm like, what? This guy doesn't speak. So I'm like, hey, dude, I go talk to the OIC. I'm like, I got a family, man. This guy can't even speak English. So I made that kid, I ran that kid through all the anchors all night long. And then the next day, thankfully we had, I don't know how, but thankfully by the grace of God, we had an okay route. And guys were cheese grating left and right of me down, pros popping out, and we made it up. So the scariest I've ever been is when he was tying those anchors and belaying me up on the wall. And I was like, here it goes. So that was pretty dangerous for me.
You remember falling, or were you really careful with your climbing? You didn't fall.
I fell once. That was it. So I'm thankful for that.
Most dangerous professional mistake.
I'd say I'm gonna go a little overarching, but give it into your fears. You give into your fears.
You're gonna need to get more specific. It's too general.
Oof.
Take me there.
If you lack self-confidence and you give into that inner voice, no, don't do that. What would so-and-so think? And it turns into this vicious cycle of you beating yourself up, knowing that you could have done better otherwise. And I think I gave into too many of my fears for other things. I'm sorry, Rob, can you see me? There we go. My screen went blank. I'm sorry. It just breeds, it doesn't breed anything good in your job, whether you're a platoon commander or, you're in the defense industry.
Biggest leadership mistake.
Caring too much about how other people feel. Right. So if you have some emotional intelligence and you're a caring guy, sometimes it can be hard when not everyone is getting along all the time. Right. So you put too much credence to everyone's feelings.
That's general again. Do you have a specific instance? Can you take me there?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a specific one.
You can tell I really don't care about your feelings and making you ask this.
That's quite all right. Yeah. No, it's quite all right, man. I don't have like a specific day. I just remember as a platoon commander where I was just so concerned about everyone getting along, right? Like, so I had a squad leader whose guys came up to me and said, hey, we don't trust Sergeant so-and-so. And I'm like, what? And I'm a second lieutenant. I don't know anything. Like, we don't trust him. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And so, I went to the platoon sergeant. I'm like, hey, first squad's guys, they don't like Sergeant so-and-so, they don't trust him. And my platoon sergeant at the time was amazing. And, he just set me straight. He's like, those guys don't know what they're talking about. Who cares if they don't like them? Do they do their job? Are they doing their job for him? And I'm like, yeah, they're doing their job for him. He's like, okay, well, if they don't like him and they're doing their job for him, then that's not really as big of an issue as you're making it out to be. Because I was stressing that I thought there was like going to be like a usurping, some sort of like rebellion against them, and they were going to, not follow his direction or guidance or orders, and it spun me out of control. And my platoon sergeant was like, dude, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. It doesn't matter really if they don't like him, as long as they do their job for him. That's all that matters. Is that specific enough? Probably not for you.
I'll let you slide on that one. Still kind of general.
Okay.
Favorite piece of gear?
I really love the Hill People gear runner's kit. So I got the little chest rig. I take that almost everywhere with me. In our neighborhood here, we got sow and cubs that live in the neighborhood, and I go on the walk with the family. I go on a run. I got my little Glock 29 10 mil in there, my cell phone, my wallet, an IFAC or something. I take that when I hunt. I take it on hikes with the family. I travel with that thing everywhere. I love that piece of kit.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that I wrote a story about this a while ago too. How these smaller companies, especially in the ultralight packing world, have really been leading. innovation and really taking market share from the other companies. I run there's only one company that does this. When I hunt in Wyoming, we get grizzly bears, and so I carry, I think, a Glock 29 10 mil. Is that the one with like the short little handle on it?
It's their compact version, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and a 10 millimeter, and I wanted to carry it on the front of my vinyl harness, but not flopping down, but like this. You can grab it like this and pull. And so I ended up having to I went through a couple of vinyl harnesses and finally had to, zip tie this, a thing on there to do it. I could only find one company that did that. Yeah, that's interesting that you do that. It's a big deal there. I didn't realize that black bears are such an issue there, but they're definitely grizzly. We get a couple, 3 people killed every year in Wyoming from grizzly bears.
Yeah, well, it's the neighborhood. I got the girls. It's a sow and cubs. I'm just not going to mess around with it. But I got it in the gray. It doesn't have any molly on it or anything, right? So it doesn't shout out like tactical, or I don't think it draws too much attention by any means. It just looks like, hey, I got my wallet and a cell phone and some snacks in here for my girls.
Awesome, good for you. Worst job you can imagine?
Working in the factory, like I talked about earlier. I just
Not gonna do that.
that Groundhog Day. I can't do it.
Dream job, and you can't say your current one.
Oh God, I was gonna say that. All right, I guess if I can't choose this one, being a professional hunter.
Interesting. Who's your?
Why is that interesting to you? No surprise, I guess. I don't know.
No, I'll just say disappointing.
Dang.
I do like the idea of hunting all the time, though.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite professional hunter? Who's a professional hunter you're a fanboy of? I hope it's not Cam. Although the guy is a physical beast.
Donnie Vincent comes to mind, and he may not be a hunter as much as he is, a biologist, but I just like everything he stands for.
I'm not too super familiar with that guy. A little bit. Best piece of career advice you ever received?
That was from my mentor at VMI, now Colonel Frank Diorio. I believe he's the CEO of 7th Reg. He told me at lunch one day, he's like, love your guys and everything else will take care of itself. And I really took that to heart as a fatherly love. And it really formed the premise of my leadership style.
Worst piece of career advice?
I had a guy once told me to cash in my 401k and buy Rolexes with it.
But that's not career advice. That's money advice. Career advice. Nice try though.
Dang it. Doggone, I'm sorry. Worst piece of career advice. I don't think I have specific words. I guess going off of others is being selfish at work. It's not in me, but nobody likes, kind of going back to what we talked about, nobody likes somebody that's just purely selfish at work, right? That just ignores the team aspect of it and kind of, why can't your friends be your friends and your workers be your workers? And I'm not trying to sound like Michael Scott from The Office, but if you're in a tight-knit group and all you do is just focus on yourself and everything that's outside of work, it's not conducive to the work environment or your career if you're trying to move up in the company.
Have you had to fire somebody at work?
No, nope. I don't have any subordinates. I have had to demote people in the Marine Corps though. I busted some for rank, busted a guy for rank, but also mainly for billets.
Was that performance related or USMG related?
No, that was performance. For billet, it was performance.
So how did Love Your Guys go to play there?
Say again?
You said that some of the best career advice you got was love your guys and everything else will take care of itself.
Right.
So you had to tough love this guy, or how'd that work out?
Yeah, I'd tough love this guy. If it's one thing I've learned or taken away from the Marine Corps is that the uncomfortable conversations are the ones that need to be had, and no one ever regretted having them. And I think if you have an uncomfortable conversation with somebody, whether it's your peer or subordinate, just the fact that you took the time and the mental effort to have an uncomfortable conversation with them makes you a better leader. Makes you a better leader and a better leader in their eyes as well. Unfortunately, in any organization, guys slip through the cracks, right? Guys who are underperformers, maybe not by their own fault, but because nobody before them took the onus of developing them or mentoring them. And I've had conversations with guys like that, with staff NCOs. And, one circumstance, I brought him to tears, but it was because he was thankful for me, is what he told me. Not because I was like berating him or anything, but he's like, no one's ever had this conversation with me. No one's ever told me these things. You're the only guy. And I know you're doing it because you care. And so even though, that he got busted down in billet, he was a better guy for it at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever been on the receiving end in one of those conversations?
I've never been busted down or reduced in rank or anything, but I mean, I've been 6 and center in front of the man before, and it's not fun at all by any means. Some of it is part of the job, some of it is part of the bravado, and a lot of it is because you did something that was bad or wrong, whether you knew it or didn't, right? Because ignorance is no excuse, and he cared enough to let you have it. It's not fun. I absolutely have been on that. And it's not good. You never forget those moments.
Is there a better way to start that conversation than others, or do you just go to it?
Nope.
Is there ever a
there's
good
no
way to
way.
do it?
I
Got it.
mean, you can start off tactfully, but there's no way to him and haw. Delaying it doesn't do anything. Like even when you're physically in front of him, right? You know why you're getting called in there, most likely, right? And the body language just it gives itself away. And when you start doing that, the other guy's just like, this guy's just delaying the inevitable. Like I just want to hear what's being told to me. And I think you just got to dive right into it, man.
Got it. Your biggest professional career regret?
My biggest professional regret was not being more technically proficient at my job as a platoon commander. I say that it's a little bit of twofold. I was very privileged when I reported into 2-2, my peer group of lieutenants, we basically took over all the platoon commander billets. There was a lot of us there. There was like 12 of us there, 8 or 12 of us. There was a lot of us there. And a lot of those guys that I grew up with were water walkers. I mean, they were top of the Christmas tree on the fitness reports. They were phenomenal infantry officers, and so I had a lot of peers to look up to because of that. But again, kind of giving into not necessarily my fears, but a little bit of feeling of inadequacy. I felt like I've been more proficient because I had such a good peer group around me, and it didn't help that I had a few concussions going into the Marine Corps as well, just from playing sports and growing up as a kid in high school and college. But just being more technically proficient, why didn't I take 30 extra minutes at the end of the day and like go over 9 lines? Why didn't I, have a training schedule of my own for like, hey, Monday, I'm going to hit this. Tuesday after work for 30 minutes, I'm just going to go over this, right? And just establishing my own educational routine for a little bit every day just to maintain the proficiency.
Is there a certain defense publication or website industry wide that you go to every day?
I have my own websites called the wires. I call them the wires, right? So it's just the big publications that I go through
Yeah.
to check what's latest in the industry. But I do have my own, what I just mentioned earlier. Like on one day, I have articles of interest. On one day, I have, going over Trijicon technology. On one day, I have competitor technology. On another day, I have Marine Corps doctrine or publications or something, right? Like up to date organizational news. So I do that. I do that as well.
Have you ever received a call from a headhunter?
I've been recruited before, not by a headhunter for like a corporate, for like a service, but by other companies.
Tell me like that. How was that? Where was that? How did that start? What was that like?
It was pretty straightforward. It's flattering. Anyone likes to hear nice things about themselves. And I also had a bit of natural guilt just because I'm so loyal to Trijicon and I love my job. But, it's like, just I'm so-and-so. I got your number from so-and-so, and I've heard a lot about you. We're doing this, and we think you'd be a great fit. We'd love to have you on the team, kind of conversation. And then you thank them. They typically are like, well, you just think about it. You get back with me. But it's basically a graceful decline for me. And let me know if you need anything, kind of thing.
Advice you'd give to your 20-year-old self about life?
I'd say perspective is everything. For example, in college, I struggled academically in college for about my first 3 years of college. I was on rocks academically, and I just thought it was the end of the world for me. Right. So you got your blinders on, VMI, I'm commissioning, I'm going to get married. And, if I don't do this, if I don't get this grade, it's going to derail my whole life. Right. Whereas, a year of your life is is nothing at that point in my eyes as I see it. And so I would say, don't get sucked into exactly what's going on. Maintain perspective of the rest of your life, and don't let that get to you.
Adam, thanks for your time today.
Rob, I appreciate it, man. It was great talking with you. Thank you again.
All right, really appreciate you.
All right, likewise.